Hey, this is a continuation of my previous video on Black Mage T optimization with the JP opener for Phase 2. As such, it assumes you have the spell speed for that opener, which is about 3579 or higher. I enter this phase with everything but ley lines and convert available. And furthermore, I assume 2 polyglot stacks, one that was held from Phase 1 and another accumulated during Limit Cut. If you don't have the same going into Phase 2, you can still use this, but you will need to make some alterations. The TLDR, after the reopener for this fight, will be to do a normal Black Mage rotation using Sharp Cast on Thunder, targeting Cruise Chaser during the ice phases, and using the Forced Thunder proc on Brute for movement during the fire phases, all while making sure the polyglot stacks are used under raid buffs. Furthermore, I attack Cruise Chaser whenever convenient, because there are multiple sections of the fight where others are forced to attack Brute with our strategy. The largest sources of variance with this strategy is the number of fire procs you get and whether you have to stack for water too. The reopener I use is strict on the spell speed, but if you have enough for the JP opener, you have enough for this. On the second global, I throw a Sharp Thunder on Cruise, which is required because of how Cruise's invincibility lines up later in the fight. After spending fouls during raid buffs, we use the Force Thunder proc on Brute in order to weave triple cast and move for chakrams. I use Mana Ward after the Despair so that I can stand outside of the Asylum that will be present during the enumeration. However, your team strats and needs may vary, and using it during Water 2 can be good as well. Next we'll be sharpening a Thunder on Cruise after the Photon Nisi pass while slide casting to the Water 1 or Thunder 1 soak spot. Now I need to bring up Convert. My group finishes Phase 1 before the second to last Hand of Pain, so Convert comes back up as I arrive at the Water 1 or Thunder 1 spot with the JP opener. With how my group finishes Phase 2, if I use Convert anytime after Water 1 resolves, it will not be back in time for when I need it in Phase 3. As such, there's ultimately no place for me to use it in this phase, and this is my biggest frustration with the phase. You should be able to incorporate Convert after the instant cast Despair if your group sees the second set of splashes in Phase 1. If you did not get a Firestarter proc before, you'll have 4 casts before you must use the Thunder proc on Brute to escape to the enumeration location. If you did, then you only have 3. I use Swift Cast to extend my movement here so that our White Mage can get through and in order to weave ley lines. Now ley lines is tricky in this fight in that its effectiveness varies based on whether you stack for Water 2. So every 30 seconds of this fight, there's something that forces you to move, whether that be chakrams in Optical Sight, Water 1, Water 2, or Water 3. As such, for you to get full use of ley lines, it does require you to not deal with one of those mechanics. My group has me avoid Water 2 whenever possible, though your group strats may vary. I will be including a section at the end for dealing with Water 2 if needed, because if you stack for Water 1, you will have to stack for some Water 2s, and your group may require it anyway. Assuming that you do not stack for Water 2, there isn't much going on here. Get your fouls in during Trick and any other raid buffs that should be around right about now. Make sure you use your Sharp Cast Thunder on Cruise during the ice phase, because it will be invincible when you want to do your next Thunder proc. If you are First Lightning, do not use ley lines early, because if you do, your Thunder proc will fall off before you need to use it. You'll want to Thunder proc Brute and triple cast your next Nisi partner. A good timing for when to start moving is when you have 3 fire spells left so that you can instant cast a Despair or Flare, or when Flare Thrower has finished casting, whichever one happens first. Don't wait longer, especially if you have stacked for Water 2 and are far from the healers like I am. Note that if you've had 0 of 3 possible fire procs so far, you should probably Despair and not Flare because crews may still be invincible. In the video, I should have used the proc, then the Flare, but instead erroneously used Despair and then the fire proc. If you do, it's a small loss, as Flare on 2 targets is a 64.8 potency increase over Despair if both are instant cast and when considering the Astral Fire boost. Crews should be attackable by the time you reach your ice phase either way, just in time to sharp a Thunder. I stack for Water 3, even though I don't really need to, and have nothing but Slide Cast to escape from it, but Soaking makes your healers happy. They have enough to deal with. From here, you have a Sharp Thunder, Ethereal Manipulation, Swift Cast, and possibly a Firestarter proc to get to your final Nisi position. In general, I prefer to simply use the Thunder proc on Brute and Manip, but you do have all of those tools available. Note that you can be the last to your position since you literally teleport to your partner, allowing your teammates to have one fewer body to deal with. After Gavel completes, the rest is essentially a victory lap. Our ninja waits to use Trick on crews here, because you only get 3 full uses of Trick no matter what, and melee can be stuck out of range earlier in the fight. Fortunately for us, that means we get 3 fouls in this trick. Whatever you sharp, use the proc to weave triple cast as Apocalyptic Ray begins, so that you can use that to weave Addle on Double Whirlwind. Using triple any later risks it not being up and available for you when you want it in phase 3, but using it any earlier means you'll probably have to hardweave Addle. Hardweave it if you have to though, mitigation is more important than your DPS. If you didn't use Swift Cast to move in, you can use it inside of the triple to extend your weaving window in order to use it on a Despair or Flare. Finally, make sure you use only one filler spell in this final ice phase because you won't finish your final fire phase either way. What this means is that every non-fire 4 comes at the expense of a fire 4, which you don't want. I like to save a polyglot stack, ley lines, and convert for phase 3 since my group doesn't need any of it to push, but if you are behind, you have all those resources to help, as well as limit break and prog scenarios. Regarding stacking for Water 2, with my group strats, the best I can do to get there without using a polyglot on Xenoglossy is to slide cast and move over from Enumeration, hoping I get a Thunder proc. From the Water 2 spot, I use the Thunder proc on Brute early in order to weave in between the lines and keep firing away from my ley lines. If you're lucky, you can get a Firestarter proc to weave the triple cast to get to your Nisi partner, but sometimes you just have to hard weave it. If you end up after all of this losing an entire global, then it should be worth using a Xenoglossy in order to help move, since your miscast will end up being a Fire 4 at the end of the fight. Phase 2 has lots of variability in both group strats and personal strats, so experiment with what works best for you. If you have any questions, comments, or improvements, feel free to post them below, and thanks for watching.